This is ContactTalkRadio.com, consciousness in action, and you are taking action into your consciousness by tuning into Contact Talk Radio.
And on TuneIn.com, Ying.fm, and UpSnap Mobile.
Contact Talk Radio.
Welcome to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. Joan and Janet are subtle energy empaths who navigate consciousness. Their passion is to support you in your evolution. As consciousness, we are all one. One mind, one heart, free of all limitations. Experience this reality with us and discover how it can make a difference in your daily living. Join us in a state of grace as we explore, with warmth and humor, this thing we call life. Now, here are Joan Newcomb and Janet Barrett.
Welcome to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. We're your co-hosts, Joan Newcomb coming to you from Tacoma, Washington, and Janet Barrett is coming to you from Portland, Oregon.
Hello, everyone. How nice to be with you again.
We have a really powerful show for you today.
Yeah, I guess so.
It is Consciousness and Emergence from Apathy. So today we're going to be talking about emerging from apathy. We're collectively numb. We have been collectively numb from this emotional roller coaster ride of the last several years. People are waking up to their internal sense of power, and the old paradigms of control through fear and dominance are falling as we are inspired to take action. So stay tuned to learn how, as consciousness, the scales are rebalancing.
Yeah, this would be an interesting subject because we had quite a time narrowing it down, focusing it to about emerging out of our apathy. So if you like us and want to know more, join us at our show website, www.consciousconversationswithjoanandjanet.com. And there you'll find all our past recordings, our podcasts of these shows. Both Joan and I write weekly, so our blogs are there and you can pick that latest information up. And about our meetups, Joan up in the Puget Sound area of Washington and me here in the Portland, Oregon area. We do groups in different ways, and about our sessions. We both work with clients privately and in groups and different experiences. So you'll find out all our Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, LinkedIn, all the links of social media will be at this site. So what else do they want to know, Joan?
Well, let me think. I am going to start doing my meetups again. You mentioned they were in the Puget Sound area, so this is going to be starting in July. I'm going to be in Tacoma on Saturday, July the 7th at the Wheelock Library from 3:30 to 5:30. I'm going to be in Tacoma on the 15th of July, and that's a Sunday from 2 to 4. I'll be at the Magnolia Library there. The week after that, I will be at University Place Library on Saturday, June the 21st from 3:15 to 5:15. And if I make it that far, I'm going to be on Vashon Island on Saturday, July 28th from 1:30 to 3:30 at the library as well. There's other locations being created here as we speak, but I took a month off from doing meetups to poll my folks and find out what they wanted. Hopefully I got enough answers, and change is in the air. Oh my gosh, change is in the air. What about you, Janet?
I'm totally blank. Oh, right. Okay. Now let me shift gears here. So on Thursdays, if you're long distance, not local to my home, I'm offering groups using Zoom video conferencing, which is a business platform for businesses that have,
So Janet,
yeah.
Zoom is kind of like Skype, except it's easier for you to record on.
You think so?
Yeah. So it's just another method for having people join you as a group and to be able to see you in person.
Yeah, it's different though. I mean, this is live interactive, which, and you can see each other, which I've not experienced well with Skype. So, and everybody's names, and you can feel the energy. It's really a nice platform. And, we've got people from New Zealand and Texas and California and Colorado and lots of Washington, lots of different places. So I really like the format different than Skype. I like Skype. It's great, but for these groups it works well. So those are at 10 a.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Pacific also on Thursday. And so you can get a hold of me at janetb@janetandbeyond.com and find out more, or the show website at Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. The info will be there. So, and oh gosh, there's lots going on, Joan.
Oh my gosh, there is so much going on. I don't even know where to begin.
Really? Well, that was part of the subject, right? I mean, look at that talk we had about it and how to narrow this down. So, people are crawling out from underneath wherever they've been. It's interesting.
Yeah, exactly. And you just think we've been numb, we have felt powerless, we've been apathetic, and we are starting to emerge from that. And for some people, it's like rising up out of the frozen ground, into reality, I guess, as it is. And the thing that I'm seeing is that for some people to wake up, you have to hit a kind of emotional bottom, and that emotional bottom is going to be really painful and uncomfortable. So it's like, how bad does it have to get before you rise up and do something?
Well, and I think it's not just us. I think this is generational. That is so powerful. That's why it's so deep, is that these patterns we're seeing playing out, whether it's sexual or political or about violence and children, these are old issues that we have collectively held in our DNA. And this time is different. This is where we are tuning more into consciousness as it expresses itself. And so we're all resonating in everybody's stuff, right? And it's very obvious to me and those who, I'm sure I know because we talk about this, about how we are feeling our neighbors' discontent and their shift out of their own apathy and different things. It's very powerful time, power.
Yes. Don't even know where to start with some of that stuff.
Yeah, really.
So actually there's believe it or not, we're also in the United States, we're in the midst of a general strike. Right. It's a grassroots movement, so it's not being well played out on the media because the media is a little distracted with some other things, which is why people are striking. So feel free whenever you're listening to this to take vacation days and to take sick days and to stop buying stuff, and because you can strike with your wallet as well, and just show that the collective can have an impact on what the ruling class thinks that they're in power, but it's all individual power. So. Right. Just 5% of the population. Yeah, just 5%. Just imagine 5% of the population stops contributing to the economy. It has a major impact in the world. So I invite everybody to do that, even if you're listening to this in 5 years from now. Hey, maybe it's a good time to strike. I don't know.
And for those of you that hold this interest, it's about the solstice, too, isn't it, Joan? Tell us about the solstice.
Well, I'm actually chagrined to realize that I looked this up and the solstice is tomorrow, so I didn't sleep through it. Okay. I am so relieved.
Okay.
I told you, I woke up this morning at like 3:57, and there was just incredible brightness of energy, which is usually what I feel when the solstice happens. So I felt like I woke up into an energetic party, and I was like, oh, I missed it because it was supposed to be here in the Pacific Northwest. It's supposed to be at 3:07, and I thought it's actually tomorrow at 3:07. So
okay, and what's it all mean? What's the solstice?
So what it means is the Earth itself has cycles, or nature itself has cycles of nature. Every 3 months we go through a shift. The major ones tend to be the solstice in the middle of the summer, in the middle of the winter. So in the summer, it's the longest day of the year. In the winter, it's the shortest day of the year. And the equinoxes on the opposite sides are where it's exactly equal. But the experience of nature is that it goes through an enormous shift. So we're at the culmination point in the northern hemisphere right now with the summer solstice. We are in the culmination point of the growth for the year. We are seeing the fruition of everything that has been brought into form. And you can align your own growth space with this as well and go through the rhythms along with it. And it's amazing because you start in September, which is really the new year for nature. It's when you've finished the crops and the ground is starting to go fallow. And you can call in a new cycle of growth. So you can think about that and enjoy what's impending because these things are a very high energetic cycle as well. There's a couple other ones to address as well, but I am going to keep you in suspense about that because we're going to go to a commercial break right now. And stay tuned because when we come back, we'll talk about consciousness and emerging from apathy.
Is your soul calling you to do something more meaningful with your life? Do you feel crazy for wanting to quit your secure job? Perhaps you are waiting until you retire to do what you love. Maybe you are too daunted to follow your dream. If any of these match your life, then Joan Newcomb's Purpose and Passion Coaching Program is just for you. In just 12 weeks, you will discover who you essentially are and why you are here. Learn to live as your greater self and navigate with conscious mastery. Go to joan-newcomb.com. That's joan-newcomb.com for all of her coaching programs. Would you like a fresh approach to the challenges you are dealing with? Take a journey into your enlightenment with Janet Barrett. Janet is a subtle energies empath, accessing the field of potential with warmth, humor, and support. She will help you to hear what your inner voice is saying. She will share with you how to appreciate who you are now and offer you new ways to understand and transform your issues. Reach her at www.janetandbeyond.com. That's janetandbeyond.com. Again, janetandbeyond.com. Transformation is possible. You can enjoy new outcomes in your current experiences. They can happen in the blink of an eye.
You are listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. To reach our program, please send questions and comments to consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. That's consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Now, back to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet.
Welcome back. You're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm your host, Joan, along here with Janet, and we are talking about emergence from apathy.
You know, Joan, when I'm stuck with just before the commercial break and you were describing, oh goodness, there it goes. My awareness was, see if I can hold on to it, was that people are going to maybe be feeling things they haven't felt before. Their intuitive states, because we're talking about consciousness in a new framework, is going to be shifting. And my thought is about how people are going to perhaps question more, be more open to their awareness of what they're doing. It might be a great learning place, don't you think? That as information is being able to be recognized in different ways because we're clearing this clutter out from within us, it's not about a vacuum so much as just a new opening that's showing up. What do you think? Did I express that clearly enough?
No, not really, but that's all right.
Well,
the people who were supposed to hear it heard it and it resonated with them.
Yeah, right. For all you out there
Right.
that caught that. Yeah. Well, it's like yesterday I had lunch with her friend she's very open and into things and stuff, but she doesn't feel things inside her.
Yes.
And so in working with her, and how to just remove all those stories and all those things that say she can't feel and set that up. She got it really quickly about how, so she had all this information and it was sitting there, but it wasn't being utilized or integrated in. And it was just a matter of saying it was okay, even though really good people had told her, you can't get in there. I can't get in there. And I'm like, that's because they couldn't get in there. You can get in there. And, it was reframing all these conversations. And it was just so powerful to go, I bet other people are like that. They've got all this info, but they haven't utilized it yet. So it's going to be there.
Yeah. Well, I have several different experiences with this, and the one I'm feeling at this moment is it's kind of like waking up from a deep sleep or waking up from like a drugged fog, and this apathy's been like this blanket, over people, and so you kind of have to like fight or shake your way out of it. The other thing I noticed is that emergence is the root of emergency. Mm-hmm. So I said before the break is, what is it going to take? What kind of bottom is it going to take to wake us up, to shake us into action? Mm-hmm. And so here's the other thing is that we can feel powerless and we can feel helpless, and these things are happening thousands of miles away, and we are infinite powerful beings, and we can affect change from within our space. And when we are centered within our space, when we are in our own physical bodies and owning our physical vehicles, the rest of the world reorganizes and falls into place. It's an infinitely powerful place to be, is to be fully centered and present.
Well, and that's what we're always present in group dynamics, certainly that we have here. We get, we can track and we all have our stuff going on in our day to day and things that irritate us or alarm us or, upset us. And underlying all that is just go to where we're one and where it's sacred and quiet. And I'll call that heart-centered awareness. And it's right there. It's not someplace you got to go. It's just within you. And you can feel how all that self-clutter, that human reactive system, is just not present. And it's more accessible these days. I think I feel that acceleration in that way. And so it's like, what if we're done with apathy? What if we're done with numbness? And no matter how old it is or generational or pervasive it is, what if it's just in this new consciousness leap? Is that's just part of the spectrum. It is not the spectrum. And I think that's what's going on.
Yes, and I also see that there's been, as greater light comes into form, which is greater consciousness is coming into form, and we are experiencing the greater light that is the essence of who we are from within us. It exposes and shines light on the darkness. It shines light on the darkness inside of us that we haven't cleaned. Maybe if you say you have a house, but you've only got 40-watt bulbs in it, and then you start to have brighter bulbs. Suddenly you go, oh my gosh, it never occurred to me to vacuum the corners of the ceiling. Yeah. So there's that, but also for people who are really invested in sitting in the dark, who are really invested in my grandparents had 40-watt bulbs. They're good enough for me. They're going to try to this is a big story, make the rest of the world sit in the dark. And so we've been feeling a concerted effort to to change the tide, to turn it back, and which is not going to happen. The momentum's already started. But so some of that apathy, it occurs to me, is actually how you feel after you've had an onslaught. And we've had an onslaught, just a never-ending onslaught that's been designed to trigger our emotions, that's been designed to get us feeling like, the crisis is never ending.
Well, our emotions connect us. They tell you you're connected. And that can, work any different kind of way, right? There's no judgment in that. You just get to look at how it's different to be connected through your anger or connected through your sense of love, for instance, or your ambivalence or your rigidity or whatever those qualities are. And so that's not the final position. That is just what you've been holding inside. And I think as we can get through all that, right? And what you talked about yesterday when we were forming this was about power and a different sense of internal power. And as we move through these sexual, social, political arenas, our sense of power is realigning itself. It's reconnecting with us. It's shifting focus. And that's what, you can get tired from all that. Yeah, so we may be using the word apathy, it just may be exhaustion.
Right.
And you just go, okay, so all is right, and just breathe that in, and then let yourself acknowledge that on the layer that's working, that is consciousness within ourselves, and you allow that to be the reality state that you express your humanity out of. And that's the emergence and the merging of all this. So.
It's so interesting because we actually, when we were talking about the topic for today's show, one possibility was about a new experience of power. And so that's what I see is going on, is as each person wakes up to the infinite power within them, it's a different experience of power. So I noticed for myself, when my solar plexus is open and relaxed, I feel empowered, and it is not that sense of dominance or being more powerful than, or I'm better than you, or any of those old
There's no
measurements.
entitlement in there.
Yes, and we are all equally powerful in that we are all consciousness. And so that's what's rising up. That's what's going on. And we are the infinite creators of our reality. So it's a pretty profound shift that's going on. And of course, then the people who are completely losing their shift are the ones, who think that their power is dependent on
others. Yeah.
Yeah, dependent on others in one scale or another. So,
well, we're shifting victim dynamics.
Yes.
Right. And see, if there is no victim and there is no abuser, and no matter what your human experience was, as you change that, as you realize that that's not your anchor anymore, that your centering is now coming from all is well. All is well. And it's what is it? Okay, I don't want to say this wrong. The Ho'oponopono.
Oh, you just did.
Yeah.
So it's Ho'oponopono.
There you go. Thank you so very much.
Just think of Santa Claus. Ho'oponopono.
Yeah. And what that brings you, right? And we found ourselves in group, the four of us, just reiterating it over and over, because that's what came out of the moment. That was not our intention. That's what presented itself. And that's why it's so powerful, because we weren't directing ourselves to be there. That's what showed up in the field to be expressed. And so as we sat there and we made it personal for each of us, and the rest of us said, we apologize, or we are sorry, yeah, go ahead.
I want to just interrupt, because people are like, what's Ho'oponopono? So I'm going to really quick explain it, and then you can finish your story.
Okay.
So here's the thing. Ho'oponopono is a Hawaiian method. I first learned of it by there's a psychiatrist in Hawaii named E. Haleakala Hulen, and he was assigned to a state mental hospital. It was this particular ward that had people who were incurably insane. They were violent offenders. They were never coming out, and it was so bad in there that they couldn't keep. The staff kept quitting because their lives were in danger. Plants would die in there. And so he would sit down with a stack of these patient files. I actually heard later that I don't think he ever went to a staff meeting, but he would sit down with a stack of these, and he would do the Ho'opono prayer, which is, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, no, thank you, I love you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, right.
I kind of know it in Hawaiian, actually, but anyhow. Right. So what that does is it's an energetic incantation where it acknowledges that pattern which is within you is also within me, and he is releasing that pattern from himself, and it has a collective effect. So what happened was within 2 years they closed the ward because people had either gotten better or they had been transferred to a lesser ward. And so it was a miraculous effect. And I heard an interview with a couple that were students of his that they operated out of Boston. And in their daily life, they had like a financial services that, worked with, the Heinz of Heinz tomato ketchup kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And during 9/11, they had 60 different clients who were either supposed to be in the Twin Towers that day for different meetings, or they were supposed to be flying on those and every single one of them had something come up that they weren't there. They didn't make the plane. They missed the plane because of traffic, or they were sick, or 60 of their clients, and their clients were financial services clients, so they didn't realize that these two people did Ho'oponopono for their clients. So it's an amazing energetic thing. So now you can finish the rest of your story because people are like, what's a hub?
Yeah. Well, I have to remember you have that wonderful language skill. So you just speak all these things. It just flows off your tongue. And my brain, and that was part of the funny thing, is my brain was not wrapping around stuff. And I'm going, okay, you got a block. You don't do this language. Something, the sounds, it doesn't track those sounds. So we looked at each other and realized we're all nice people. We all work with people, and there are those places within ourselves that are holding people at a distance. Yes. And it's that, duality dance that we can do. And so we tailored it to them instead of please forgive me, please forgive us, or whatever the lines were. And it was fascinating where you could see where it was just sitting there, and then when we tailored it, it went in. And you could see the difference, you could read the difference. And so we're doing this for ourselves, with each other. And then also, who else could we lend this to? Because that's what was in that space. And we found ourselves reciting it, and we do it like a chant. We did it like 3 or 4 times. And it went out to the children, migrants, not migrants, but the children that are being held at borders. And it was just hugely powerful. We could just feel this sense of peace. And it works within ourselves and outward. There are all those places inside of us that we are not connected well. Not connected, I want to say connected well, but it's well connected too. Connected where all this information is. And if you just allow it to just be information and emotions and thoughts and not be attached to what it's got to be, this, that, and the other thing, there is so much stuff within each of us that's loosening up. And you can just see it like little pieces flying off, and something beautiful and stunning, the infinite wonder that we each are as consciousness, is present. And we're getting more open with it. We're getting more connected to that. So it ain't apathy.
Yes. I went to Google Translate to see what the Hawaiian was. It was I kalamai, iahu, mahalo, aloha.
You see, your tongue wraps around that so well.
My husband's a happy man.
Good for you.
He's at the office now going, whoa!
I can lick the plate pretty good.
Your husband's a happy man now, too.
Yeah, my husband's a happy man.
His world is transformed.
Definitely. He retired June 1st, everyone. So life is different in our house. It's great.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to spend a life in service and helping people to not.
Yeah, you have to start. It allows us to focus more inward if that's what we need to, without all the. You don't have to be on alert about the outside world, and he's been that way in just what his job position and title was. So he's readjusting. He's readjusting. I'm readjusting, right? And you have to. That's one thing about retirement when people have been only socializing on evenings and weekends, and all of a sudden they're there all day. So it makes it fun. So anyway, no apathy here.
Right. Different distribution of space.
Definitely. Well, there's a lot of heat releasing. Right. That's good.
It's been interesting for me because, to the best of my ability, I've been participating in this general strike, which maybe 5% of the people know about, and what it requires you to do is to not contribute to the economy. And you can strike with your wallet. And so I've been trying to stay off, to the best of my ability, stay off social media because of advertisements. And here you and I are talking, but we talked about this yesterday, about whether to do a rerun today or actually be on the air. And this podcast is really kind of it's an advertisement for me, but it's a labor of love. And
yeah, this isn't work. This is play.
Yeah. And so what I have noticed, however, is there were times yesterday where I was withdrawn from the drama, and there was a great spaciousness and clarity. Until I looked at Twitter again this morning. But Rachel Maddow cried last night. So that's how bad the news was. Yeah. So, but what it was reminding me that for all of us to disengage from that drama, that emotional numbing, that abuse. It's essentially, we're experiencing that collective abuse. And when you can step away from it, you can reconnect to your own inner sense of power. You made some comment earlier that I was going to catch, and then the river kept flowing. But it was about getting out of victimhood. And so I do have a perspective of the world where you can view this world as a hologram. It's a movie, and therefore all the characters in your storyline are characters in a movie. And if you think about it, if you're watching a movie, it doesn't matter how bad or terrible or scary it really is. Christopher Walken or some other horror movie type person, they're actually really boring in real life. And once the movie stops filming, wraps for the day, everybody goes down to the cafeteria and has dinner together, or goes down to the bar and has a drink. So, but in real time, in physical bodies, there are these dynamics. So we do have this arising of Me Too, where people who have been incarcerated in the victim mode are being empowered to speak out, and then people who have been getting away with their white privilege and their abusive natures are having the spotlight shone on that. It's an opportunity to transform, but it's been really, oh my gosh, it's just been really uncomfortable. But again, this is all about us becoming empowered, getting in touch with our internal power. And what happens when you do get in touch with your internal power is the external world reshifts, and either those abusers transform or they dissipate from your life. And I speak from personal experience. So, you know, that's some of what I have to say about that.
Well, what you bring to mind is when I use the people are waking up, there is so much we can question, but there's so much that we've assumed and presumed, and it's not us, and we didn't know we could challenge it. And collectively, society has such a power to it that we can be silent, or, you know, I listen to Pandora comedy and at night, and the different comedians, and I look at what they're talking about, and what I'm really taken with is how the audience response is. And when people are laughing at something that's really not funny, it's something that should be alarming them, and you can hear the laughter change. And it's where we get into situations where we don't know how to behave, where we don't know that, okay, and, all right, I don't know what to do with that. So it just sits there. And what happens is that builds up, and you have that over a lifetime, and you have that over several lifetimes. And that's what we're emerging out of. And just being around people yesterday, in the way that I was, and picking up that and hearing about how people were with the people they were around. And there is so much live energy because there is no time or space as consciousness. So anything that happened in what we would ascribe to the past is still active. And the emotion energy is still active, certainly. And so it's a little different. There's really no separation. We're losing the separation between all these different layers of, and I'm just going to call it information because that's going to cover feelings and thoughts and all that. It's just stuff. And all resonating in different little vibratory patterns, and we connect in all that. And it's how to recognize. You first have to recognize that there's something there. And then you can align differently. But there's all different kinds of ways to relate to information. There's all kinds of different ways to feel it and think about it and connect to it and hold awareness of it. And so you let go of the judgment that you are, oh gosh, and we talked about punishment yesterday as part of all this. Yeah. If you take the judge out and you just put it all out there and you go, what are the pieces that I want? And you pick the piece that you want and you let the rest of it go because you realize it was just holding the kernel of information out of all that stuff. That's really what we're doing, and everybody's at a different place with it, and what you experience is your experience and not the next guy's. So as we just keep realigning ourselves that, okay, you are consciousness and you're choosing to experience that this way. This is the way I'm choosing to experience consciousness. And it's where we're the same and where it's unique to each of us. And appreciating, and I mean fully appreciating, not conditionally appreciating, fully appreciating what that exchange is about. And that's the It's about that you have your experience of being, they have their experience of being, how that interacts, and just clearing all that intangible that's around it, but you'll notice it, and that's what happened for those in the prison. That's what happened to the guards that were there. That's what happened to everyone as that passed along. And change happens. Well, however you feel about change, change happens. And we are the instruments of change. And we are the creators of change, and we are in our creation. So we're not just observing our creation, we're in our creation at the same time. That's what's so powerful about it.
You know, you mentioned the word punishment, and I was just running through my awareness of that, and how strange it is to me now, the whole religious interpretation about punishment, and you know, that even the concept that people should be punished, and it's an old paradigm of you know, like God as a punishing God, as opposed to a loving God. And you know, and I'm thinking in the old days, nobody thought anything of, you know, hitting somebody with a metal ruler as a form of discipline.
Yeah.
And even to me, hitting as a form of discipline is missing the mark, because it doesn't. All it does is it teaches somebody to hit.
Right.
And as opposed
and
to
it's control. It's
yes,
know,
yeah.
And as an expression of frustration, it's very dynamic.
So it's really different if you realize that everybody is an infinite being, and that it doesn't matter, you know, what shape or form that their bodies pop out as, shape, form, color, or whatever, is they're a treasure chest of infinite potential. And the being itself is an infinite being. And suddenly you start treating people with more respect, and that infant as an infinite being that just doesn't happen to know how to roll over at the moment.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, you know, that's showing the limits of how well we can see and perceive. That's showing us the edge of our biases and our perceptions and our orientations. And everything is infinite. It's all part of consciousness, because consciousness is the core that's so expansive. We're all within that. So everything is a part of consciousness. It's my failure to recognize that in some areas. And that's mine to go, well, what if it was different? Not to punish myself or feel bad because I've failed to recognize or do something, because that's easy. That is so easy. That is so automatic. That gets so triggered in there. It's what can I do different here? That's one thing that's coming up with my husband, and having him acclimating him back into the house full time. And it's like, that's much easier for me when I'm open to, this is the way I've been doing it. How do I make this as an invitation to him to join me? Means that I really get to look at my stuff again and go, he's right. That's not really, it doesn't have the value that it once had. So I'm reframing what I'm going to, how I connect to the object or the information, and go, okay, what would make you enjoy being in this room, sweetie? And he can look at these things and go, well, you know, and I can go, oh, okay, yeah, no, okay, maybe I can move that. Still want to keep it, but maybe I want to move it. And all of a sudden I've given allowance for both of us to be good, clean, wonder. I have not tainted the relationship with, you don't show up the way I want you to. You're a problem. That doesn't enter into it. It's now this embrace, this working together. So that's just some thoughts.
Yeah, and you just think about, in terms of your husband, he's in a big, huge growth space. His identification is changing, so suddenly he doesn't have that career identification anymore. Right. And knowing a little bit about him is that he's likely to express it being grumpy at first because it's uncomfortable. So, you know, how do you just allow that space to be? You know, I have this with my meetup groups, and I debate on whether or not to mention it at first, but the energy of the group is usually so high. It's a really joyous, ecstatic experience. and it will bring up discomfort for people. So then they'll be sitting there in their discomfort. And I've had occasion where, everybody wants to dogpile on the person who's not feeling comfortable. And so there's a technique, or there's not a technique, there's a tactic. There's to just hold space for that discomfort, that person can sit and process it without it having to affect everybody else. So anyway, with those thoughts, hold those thoughts, boys and girls, because we have to take another commercial break. Stay tuned, because when we come right back, we will be talking about emergence from apathy.
Is your soul calling you to do something more meaningful with your life? Do you feel crazy for wanting to quit your secure job? Perhaps you are waiting until you retire to do what you love. Maybe you are too daunted to follow your dream. If any of these match your life, then Joan Newcomb's Purpose and Passion Coaching Program is just for you. In just 12 weeks, you will discover who you essentially are and why you are here. Learn to live as your greater self and navigate with conscious mastery. Go to joan-newcomb.com. That's joan-newcomb.com for all of her coaching programs. Would you like a fresh approach to the challenges you are dealing with? Take a journey into your enlightenment with Janet Barrett. Janet is a subtle energies empath, accessing the field of potential with warmth, humor, and support. She will help you to hear what your inner voice is saying. She will share with you how to appreciate who you are now and offer you new ways to understand and transform your issues. Reach her at www.janetandbeyond.com. That's janetandbeyond.com. Again, janetandbeyond.com. Transformation is possible. You can enjoy new outcomes in your current experiences. They can happen in the blink of an eye.
You are listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. To reach our program, please send questions and comments to consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. That's consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Now, back to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet.
Welcome back. You're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm your host, Joan, and I'm along here with Janet, and we are talking about emergence from apathy.
Yeah, I think we're doing it.
I think we've emerged.
Yeah, I think we've come out of our cocoons a little bit, which is good. The challenge is that everybody's at a different place, and you can celebrate that or you can beat yourself up with it, right? And you go, why don't they get it? And it's like, well, because they're not there to get it. They'll get it when they get it, if they ever get it. It's not about them getting it. It's about how you do.
It's an evolutionary thing, and everyone's at a different stage of evolution. I also think about it, if you've ever been at a baseball game and they do the wave. You watch people standing up and they stand up and it goes around the arena. And so here at the stadium or whatever it is. And so that's kind of how we're experiencing it. I would suspect if you're listening to this podcast, you're one of the ones already standing and like, what are you guys doing over there sitting there drinking your beer? So we're in a process.
Sometimes the first time around people haven't got it because they're not in the rhythm of it, right? And they go, oh, we're doing the wave. Oh, okay. And then they get into it. And, so everybody's at a little different place. And that's reflecting our inward, because within us, we're at all different places. And some of it is just more congruent, and those other places inside are opening in their awareness. So we just set up that as this reality, this heart-centered awareness, this malleable reality, that wherever awareness is, it can move to other places. And so the things that we're enjoying or appreciating about ourselves, just allow that to get a little bigger and go to the places that are holding a different kind of energy and see what happens. And make that real. That is real in this state. So you gotta live life, right?
Yeah, because the alternative is not living life, and so
Yeah, right.
kind of misses the point of being here. Well, and that, at some point in this conversation where we have been all over the place, you talked about emotions, and I view emotions as our body's language to communicate with us as consciousness.
Okay.
Because if you think about it, in consciousness, it is always joyous and ecstatic. It's this wonderful sense of well-being. But it's our body that feels the density, the effort, the discomfort. And at our core, we're all little kids, and how does a little kid express itself? It cries when it's hungry. It cries when it's wet. It cries when it's tired.
Cries.
It just cries.
It just learns how to cry. Yeah.
Exactly. And so there's a whole lot of crying going on, and or temper tantrums or things like that. And so the thing is to learn how to respond as consciousness to what's going on to your own physical form. And when you can care for yourself as the greater consciousness that you are, you can parent yourself. You can be the one that is in charge of things, and it doesn't rely on making other people outside adjust to your reality.
Right. Yeah.
Withdraw that focus off of forcing other people to change and change yourself, and it does have an amazing ripple effect.
It does. Well, there was a lot of thoughts flying through there. So,
yeah. Hey, you know what? I want to just really quick remind folks how to stay in touch with us after the show. So if you like the things we're talking about and want to go deeper with us, our website is consciousconversationswithjoanandjanet.com. There you can listen to all of our past podcasts. You can also read the blogs that Janet and I both write. We write them weekly. You can also learn about our meetups. Janet does hers on Tuesday and Thursdays in Portland, and I do mine around the Puget Sound. I have a whole bunch of them coming up in July in Tacoma, Seattle University Place, and Vashon Island, and so you can find them all posted there. We're on Facebook and on Twitter, so you can get our social media connections there, and we're also on YouTube. So, and I have a YouTube channel, and I post my weekly YouTube videos on our site as well. And Janet, you have special groups on Thursdays. Tell them about that.
Thursdays via Zoom video conferencing. It's just easy. It's live, interactive. You can feel the state. You can feel it. It's real. And it's great. The small groups, up close and personal work that we play with what's showing up in the field for each of us. So I heartily recommend it. And you can find all that information out at the website and on my website and on my email address. So,
can they get their email? Can they get your email address off of our website, consciousconversationswithjoanandjanet.com?
They should be able to. So my website is www.janetandbeyond.com. My email is janetb@janetandbeyond.com. And I look forward to hearing from you. And, this is our invitation, Joan, right, that we're extending to people to invite these conversations within yourself in a useful state, in a state that says all is well, allow your information to show up and work with it, right? And that maintaining that place of ease with it and see how it goes. Give us a call. Let us know. So.
Yeah. And so, you can connect with Janet that way. You can also connect with me. My connections are on the website, consciousconversationswithjoanandjanet.com. And if you want to know more about the techniques and things, look at the videos I have there. And you can also go to my website. There's a link on the videos to look at my coaching programs.
There's lots of ways, right? Social media and the internet. I guess it's the internet. The internet is separate than social media anymore. Yeah, the internet. People have access to information in lots of different places. And so we just encourage you to keep looking and finding what feels good to you. And if it totally doesn't make any reference to you, that might be a clue that there's a blind spot in there. That maybe there is information there. So
Well, and hopefully you have cleared a lot of that because the high vibration of this show has helped you get to a more embodied space. And I also want to just express my appreciation for you because regardless of whether you're listening to us live or you're tuning in to us later, there's no time or space as consciousness, so you have helped collectively create this experience today. You have helped contribute to the morphic field of this show, and we really appreciate you.
We're here for you. Right? This is our joy to do this show and connect with people in the ways that we can. And we're totally congruent that energy is present always and has no time or space to it. So wherever you are and at whatever time you're listening to us, we thank you for that. And it's just like you're right here. So.
You've been listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet, and tune in next week. Same time, same channels.
Have a great week, everyone.
You've been listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. And thanks so much for helping to co-create the show, no matter if you're listening live or on demand. You energetically contribute to our collective experience. Joan and Janet love to hear from you and invite you to email your comments and ideas for them to explore each week. Contact them at consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Tune in next week for another great show, and until then, keep enjoying this wonderful adventure we call life.